Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, I want to start with a question for you, and I want you to be honest. How much of your day is just filling the air? You know what I mean, right? The, hey, how are you? Texts that don't really mean anything.
Yeah.
The need to have a podcast on while you do the dishes. No offense to us, of course. That absolute panic when a conversation hits a lull and you just feel like you have to jump in and save it.
It's the horror of the awkward silence.
Yes.
We've been conditioned to treat silence as a failure. Like, if it's quiet, something's wrong. If you aren't texting your partner back within, 5 minutes?
Oh, the relationship is definitely in trouble.
The relationship is in trouble. We equate noise with health.
Exactly. We live in this economy of constant signal. But today, we're going to look at a source that really challenges that entire operating system.
It really does.
We've been reading a collection of stories called Whispers of the Shape of Love. And specifically, we're doing a deep dive into one story called Where Words Weren't Needed. And I have to say, my first reaction reading this was, okay, this is a fantasy. Because nobody actually acts like this.
Well, it definitely feels countercultural. But I think calling it a fantasy might be a bit of a defense mechanism.
How so?
Because the author is presenting a hypothesis here. What if the strongest connection isn't the one that shouts, but the one that says absolutely nothing? We're going to look at the architecture of silence in this story. How two people, Adam and Layla, build a relationship almost entirely without dialogue.
Which, let's be real, sounds like a nightmare for anyone with anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, let's date, but never speak.
Yeah.
But as you get into the text, you realize it's not about ignoring each other. It's about a different kind of attention. So let's set the stage. The author paints a pretty vivid picture of the world these two live in.
Right. And the setting is almost a character in itself. It opens in a vibrant city, and the language is very specific. Skyscrapers kissing the clouds.
And people flowing like rivers.
Exactly.
Flowing like rivers. It sounds poetic, but when I read that, I just felt stress. You know, rivers are relentless. They don't stop. It just implies this current that drags you along.
That's a great observation. It's a world of just constant motion, kinetic energy. And in the middle of this rushing river, there's this little eddy, a quiet spot.
The cafe.
The cafe. This is the sanctuary. It's described as having a kind of hallowed silence, which is totally distinct from the roar outside.
And this is where we find Adam. Now, Adam is a writer, which you'd think means he's good with words. But the source gives him a really interesting profile. He's often lost in the narratives of others while neglecting his own.
That line really stood out to me. It suggests a man who is an observer, maybe even a voyeur of life, but he's stalled.
He's stuck.
He's stuck.
Yeah, right.
He sits by the window watching that river of people, but he's not jumping in. He's kind of disassociated.
And then in walks Layla, the librarian. Of course she's a librarian. We're leaning into the quiet tropes here. But she seems very deliberate.
She is the counterweight to all that chaos. The text emphasizes her rhythm, rises early, takes a stroll, spends exactly 1 hour at the cafe. She cherished the comfort of routine.
So if he's stalled, she's anchored.
Perfectly put. She's built a fortress of small habits to protect herself from that rushing city.
So you have the stalled writer and the anchored librarian. They're in this cafe. Now, normally in a rom-com, this is where they bump into each other, spill coffee.
They're entering, yes.
But the story describes this observation phase that goes on for a long, long time. Weeks, maybe months.
And this is where the author starts to dismantle our modern idea of dating. They're strangers. They don't speak, but they are hyper-aware of each other.
Right.
Adam notices her serene presence. Layla notices his intense focus.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is this romantic or is it just projection?
I mean, that is the risk.
If I sit across from someone for 6 months and never talk to them, I'm falling in love with a version of them in my head.
Right.
I'm just inventing a personality for them.
That is the risk, certainly. But the text argues that they aren't projecting, they are witnessing. There's a line that says Layla never dared to intrude upon his world. So in a way, by not interrupting him with small talk, she was showing him more respect than if she had tried to flirt. She saw he was working and she valued his work. That's a form of intimacy.
Okay, I can see that. It's like parallel play,
Safety
what toddlers do. You play with your blocks, I'll play with my blocks, and just by doing it near each other, we're bonding.
It's adult parallel play. It creates a safe harbor. You don't have to perform for me, you can just be. And in a city that flows like a river, having a place where you don't have to paddle is incredibly seductive.
So the tension builds. They're in orbit. But eventually, the universe forces a collision. The seasons change. The cafe gets more crowded.
Right.
Adam comes in, his window seat is taken, and the only open chair is across from Layla.
This is the turning point, the crisis of proximity. The noise level is up, it's buzzing. Adam asks to join her. She nods. Now, you mentioned the pressure to fill the silence. This is the moment where 99% of us would just start babbling.
Oh, absolutely. Crazy weather. The wifey is slow today. I would be physically incapable of not making a joke about how crowded it is. It's a defense mechanism.
It is. Talking is control. Silence is vulnerability. But look at what they do. The story says, instead of filling the air with chatter, they embraced the comfort of silence.
They chose vulnerability.
They did. Adam writes, Layla reads.
And the text makes a pretty bold claim here. It says they transformed that quiet into a shared space.
And that concept of a shared space is crucial to the author's whole philosophy. It's not just two people ignoring each other. It's an active construct. Imagine a bubble sort of expanding to include both of them.
Okay.
Inside that bubble, the rules of the noisy city just don't apply. They felt understood without uttering a word.
Understood. Without uttering a word. That's the part that always trips me up. How can you feel understood if you haven't explained yourself?
Because explanation so often dilutes the truth. Think about it. When we talk on a first date, we are curating. We're presenting the best version of ourselves. We're managing their reaction.
Or performing.
We're performing. By staying silent, Adam and Layla dropped the mask. He let her see him struggle with his writing. She let him see her get lost in a book. That's raw data. That is the real person.
So by skipping the interview phase of dating, they actually fast-forwarded to the comfortable silence phase.
Precisely. And that accidental meeting, it becomes a ritual. They sit together every day. And this is where the story shifts from, passive observation to active communication, but still without speech.
Yeah, the gestures. This is my favorite part because it feels like a secret language.
It is.
Adam starts ordering Layla's favorite pastry without asking.
And Layla saves the window seat for them.
Let's unpack that. Ordering a pastry seems small, but what does it actually signal?
It signals, I see you. It signals, I know what brings you a little bit of joy, and I am providing it.
And her saving the seat.
That signals, I know what you need to function, you need that view, and I am protecting that need. These are acts of service. They're efficient, caring, and entirely nonverbal.
It's high bandwidth communication with zero latency. I mean, if he had asked, hey, do you want a croissant? It's nice, but just putting it there, that's next level.
It proves that he's been paying attention. And in a noisy world, attention is the rarest currency. The text says their bond ran deeper than mere dialogue. It was a quiet understanding.
They were building a relationship on observed behavior, not promised behavior. I like that. We promise a lot of things with words. I'll always be there for you.
Right.
But saving a seat every day is actually being there.
Exactly. But we have to address the climax. Because eventually the ambiguity has to end, right?
It has to.
You can't just share pastries for 20 years and not know what you are.
The famous "what are we" conversation, which usually involve peers and 3 hours of just circular logic. But Adam handles it differently.
He does. It's winter. First snow is coming down. The atmosphere is cozy. Adam rips a piece of paper, writes 3 words, and slides it across the table.
Is this love?
Just like that.
It's such a gamble. He's breaking the seal. He's bringing a definition into this undefined space.
And look at Layla's reaction. Her heart races. She looks at him with unexpected depth. The text implies she knew this was coming, or maybe even feared it. But she doesn't speak. She writes back 1 word.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's it. That's the climax, is this love. Yes. But here's the part that I think is going to frustrate some listeners and maybe fascinate others. What happens immediately after that?
Nothing. Or, well, everything, depending on how you look at it. The text explicitly states they never spoke about love aloud again. They didn't need to.
They never spoke about it. That is wild to me. You get the confirmation, the yes, and you don't want to, I don't know, celebrate, plan the wedding.
Yeah.
Talk about your feelings.
But why? What would words add to that moment? The yes confirmed what the silence had already proven. Anything else would just be redundancy. The author explains that they realized love had always been present in the silent moments. Speaking about it might have actually cheapened it.
It's almost like if they talked about it, they'd be pulling it down into the ordinary world, the world of the river, where things are messy and loud.
Exactly.
By keeping it silent, they kept it sacred.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a protection of the sacred. The source argues that their love story was devoid of dramatic confessions. It blossomed slowly and profoundly. It challenges that whole Hollywood narrative that love is a crescendo of noise.
It also brings up the author's note. We should talk about the philosophy here, because this isn't just a cute anecdote. There's a specific worldview.
Yes. In the About the Author section, they state that some books aren't written to impress, but to understand. And they define love in a way that maps directly to Adam and Layla. It says love doesn't live in big words. It exists in the space between two people who simply understand each other.
The space between. We usually think of love as a cord connecting two people. But thinking of it as a space, like a room you both inhabit, that really changes the visual.
And the text adds that love lingers, waits, and changes us softly.
Softly. That's the key word for me. We're so used to impact. We want to be struck by love, overwhelmed. But soft change suggests, I don't know, erosion or growth.
Like a tree growing or water shaping a stone. You don't notice it happening until it's already done, and that aligns with the core belief in the source. True connection is felt, not forced.
Right.
Think about the energy we spend forcing connection, the curated texts, the planned dates, the performance of being a good partner. Adam and Layla stripped all of that away. They stopped forcing and just started feeling.
But, and I want to bring this back to reality for a second, is this sustainable? Can you run a marriage on silence? Eventually, you have to decide whose turn it is to take out the trash.
Of course. Of course. The story isn't suggesting we all become monks and never speak to our spouses. It's a parable.
Okay.
It's highlighting a deficit in our lives.
Yeah.
We are 90% noise, 10% presence. The story is asking, what if we just shifted that ratio a little bit?
So it's not about never talking. It's about not relying on talk to prove the connection exists.
Exactly. Trust is the foundation of silence. If I can sit in a room with you for an hour, we don't say a word, and I don't feel anxious and you don't feel ignored, that is a massive indicator of trust. It means I am comfortable enough with you to just be myself.
I think about that term awkward silence again. This story effectively rebrands it as companionable silence.
Companionable silence is the goal. It's the difference between being alone and being alone together. And for the listener, if you want to explore this more, the collection Whispers of The Shape of Love is available as an ebook. It's full of stories just like this one.
It feels like reading it would be a form of meditation in itself. But before we wrap up, let's pivot to the practical. Most of us aren't living in a poetic cafe. We're in messy apartments with notifications going off every 10 seconds. How do we apply the Adam and Layla method?
I think it starts with active observation. We talk a lot about active listening, where you nod and repeat things back. But active observation is watching your partner when they aren't talking. What are they doing? What do they need?
Like the pastry.
Like the pastry. Can you fulfill a need before they even have to verbalize it? That shows you're tuned in.
And also, maybe just shutting up sometimes.
Blunt, but yes, stop trying to fill the void. The next time you're in the car with someone or sitting on the couch and a silence falls, just let it fall. Don't rush to kill it with a comment about the traffic. See what happens.
That is terrifying.
It is. But if you can push through that terror, you might find the peace on the other side. You might find that shared space.
It's a challenge to the ego, isn't it? Because if I stop talking, I have to trust that I'm still interesting or that I'm still loved, even when I'm not performing.
That's the soft change the author talks about. It forces you to find your worth in your presence, not your output.
So here is the takeaway for you, the learner.
Yeah.
We are not telling you to stop talking to your significant other. Please communicate about your bills and your feelings.
Please, but consider the ratio. Consider the noise floor of your relationship. If you lowered the volume, would the connection still be there?
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. We assume that words clarify things. That's why we use them, right? We want to be clear. But looking at Adam and Layla, I wonder how many relationships have actually been damaged by too many words? By over-explaining, over-analyzing, talking a feeling to death until it's just a dissecting frog on a table.
Words can be weapons and words can be walls. Sometimes removing them is the only way to really get close.
So, take a page from the librarian and the writer. Find your window seat. Watch the river go by. And maybe, just for a little while, let the silence do the talking. Thanks for deep diving with us.
Stay quiet out there.
We'll see you next time.